Hello, everyone. Welcome today to our webinar for the GUI Builder tool that exists in our Oasys Suite. My name is Jared. Just a quick introduction. I am a software developer in Arup, and I've been working here for 3 years on the Primer program within our Oasys Suite. The GUI Builder is a powerful tool which streamlines the coding process for your graphical interfaces when you're creating scripts using our JavaScript API. So, what are we going to cover today? I'm going to quickly go through what the GUI Builder is, why we have it, and why you should use it. How to set up a GUI with this tool. A demonstration on a quick program for this using some basic functions and the tool itself. And after this presentation, I will be taking questions. Feel free to put them in the chat while I do my presentation. And I will get to them after the presentation. So, what is the GUI Builder? The GUI Builder is a tool for creating graphical user interfaces within our JavaScript API. This tool is present in Primer, this, and d3plot for the moment. The functions for creating a GUI within our JavaScript API, if any of you are familiar with, do already exist. However, this GUI Builder is a tool that helps you quickly create those and therefore interact with your files quite easily and visually. And this quickly automates the GUI creation process, as you will see very soon. So again, the advantages of using this tool is threefold. Firstly, using a GUI in your JavaScript will allow you to interact with it with the features of our programs, such as Primer, d3plot, and this, quite easily when you run the script, instead of having to run the script without much feedback. Secondly, the GUI Builder tool itself allows you to quickly cut down on the time required to make those tools and creates a very easily accessible visual layout. So one thing that we focused on when developing this tool, and something that you will notice when you use it, is that it will drastically cut down on the number of lines that you need in your basic script, instead condensing it down to a single line, which then references a second file, which you do not have to edit at all. As you can see, this small panel will probably get you up to hundreds of lines in the previously handwritten code. However, with the GUI Builder tool, as you can see, all you need is the if GUI reference line, and that is all you need. It will reference the file that is automatically output. So why the GUI Builder? Finally, I just want to finalize why it is so good. Previously, the windows and widgets defined with handwritten code, again, took forever to write and involved a lot of guesswork and trial and error. Therefore, it was a much steeper learning curve and was slow to create and modify existing GUIs. With the GUI Builder, it's quite obvious that now you can do all of that quite easily. So right now, I'm going to get into a summary of a demonstration of what we can do with the GUI Builder. I will now bring up Primer, where I've loaded in a model, and I will take you through the various windows windows and widget tools within the GUI Builder itself. So first off, we're going to go to the JavaScript tool, and there you find the button to launch the GUI Builder. Here, you will see two windows. The design window, which is gridded, and this will help you lay out and align all your various widgets. On the left, you see a properties window, which lists all the properties that go into the objects, the JavaScript objects that represent the windows and the widgets. So first off, we're going to show you what a widget window is. This window is the first panel that you see when you launch your GUI through the script. From here, I can add various widgets which are known over here. For example, labels, buttons, text boxes, checkboxes, combo boxes, list boxes, radio buttons, and sliders. For example, I will insert a label right here. That was easy to right-click and add that. You can similarly do that from the top menu panel. There's a pop-up over here. And when you click on the label, it will bring down the label properties on the side. When you click out, it brings you back to the window. So these various widgets are what we're going to break down for now. So the label is your standard text box. Well, label box, essentially. It allows you to create small boxes in which you can define text that is non-editable. So for example, I could put direction in here. And when I click out of that, it will immediately change your label over here. Buttons are similar. However, they do have certain features which allow you to hover and show that it is clickable, essentially. Text boxes are widgets which allow the user to input text, and from there, you can use that to interact with the rest of your primer tools and features. Checkboxes are essentially what is on the tin. Clicking on them creates a toggle event, which then allows the user to toggle on and off something based off their requirements. The combo box is quite interesting. It is essentially a pop-up, a box which is built to create pop-ups. From here, you can go to Edit Widget Items and add new widget items, which are essentially options that you can select and interact with from your combo box. From here, I've created 3 by using the Add New Widget Item button. And for example, I will populate them with my own text options. When I hit apply, you'll see that the text has been populated in here. I will show you how it appears after we do that, after we finish this panel. Here, I can justify the text to the center and to the right. There are various options for each button and widget, and I do not have time to go into all of them today. However, feel free to have a play around yourself, and you'll find that there's many features that we can use with this. After the combo box, we have the list box, which acts fairly similarly to the object menu selection. So what it does is it allows you to select multiple items. So for example, if I wanted to add some widget items here, let's say nodes, beams. and shells. This is simply a GUI, as mentioned before. In order to have these work, you will need to add your own functions, as I will show you later. Here you have the radio button, which functions as the radio button does. It gives you a selection of different options that you can choose from, but only one of each. Jumping back to the list box, as you can see, when I expand it using the expanding tools within the GUI Builder, you will see that it responds immediately and allows you to create the GUI with ease and precision. You can use the grid to align your widgets. And similarly, I will do the same with creating a radio button box. Once again, it's X, Y, and Z. Over here, you can't see what the options are, so if you just expand, that should give it to you. To use the list box to ensure that one of them is selected to begin with, let's go back into Edit Widget Items, click on one of them to edit, and over here you can see that it is false on selected. This is the initial state. Once I hit apply, you'll see that it is selected by default. Finally, we have the slider. This is a button, this is a widget, which then allows you to create a slider giving a maximum as you wish and increments, steps as you wish as well. Now let's write this out. From here, we have several options. We can load a saved GUI file, we can save it, and we can write it out raw. For now, we're going to just save it to show the standard output for the GUI Builder. Go to Save. Over here, I'll type in GUI Builder example. From there, if we look into the File Explorer, it gives us two files. One, which is a file with the underscore template suffix, which is a .js. That will give us the standard JavaScript. And over here, this is the .jsi file, which is the JavaScript object file, which this tool uses in order to read and lay out your GUI. So if we want to load this, we'll go back to File, and we'll load this saved GUI. When we open it, it will load it all in, and it will be as you left it. Now let's run that. So if we want to run your GUI using your JavaScript, you will click on the template file, hit open, and run. As you can see, this is exactly as we created it. You can see the various methods of this the GUI. With the button, it highlights when you hover over it. With the slider, It changes as you manipulate it. With the list box, you can select one or multiple options. With the list box, with the radio box, you can click multiples of these, single one of each of these options. And with the combo box, you can click on the pop-up as it comes up. Checkbox and text box. Let's go back into the GUI Builder. Now I'm going to load that previous GUI file, and I'm going to write it out as a raw JavaScript file. This will write it out in the format that we usually write out when we are hand editing it. And I will show you a comparison momentarily. So raw GUI Builder. I'm now opening it in Notepad. And so this is the template file from the standard output. Over here, you will see the JSI file, which Primer then reads in and processes. As you can see, we have a little text comment warning saying, do not edit it unless you know what you're doing. This has a specific format that Primer reads in, and Primer, D3plot, and THIS read in. And unless you know what you're doing, we do recommend that you don't edit this. This is easily editable from the GUI Builder tool. When we come back here, this is a template file, which is the main JavaScript output that you run. As you can see, we use this line, use GUI Builder example1.jsi. This references the JSI file and tells our program that you can use this to create the GUI. This JSI file contains a GUI object, which is then named GUI, defined in the JSI. And over here, it is telling, this is the line that tells our program to show the GUI. So that initializes and shows the window that you created. If we compare this to the raw file, this is what you would otherwise write if you were trying to create it by hand. As you can see, each widget requires you to write 4 different lines, and many, many different variables and arguments that go into each of them are required to ensure they work. Having to do that by hand was previously quite tedious, and so the GUI Builder definitely does cut down on all of this. We do include this raw output option, as if you do want to hand edit it much later in a more familiar way, you can choose to do so. However, we do recommend that you use the GUI Builder, as it is much faster. So back to Windows. As you can see over here, you can see the main windows. I only have one at the moment. I can put a title on it if I wish. Main window. Go File, Save. And I run that template file. I will now have main window as my title. Under window options, I can add a main window, window 2, this will only be shown if you do add a show window to option line within the script. So the window 2 will be created and put into your JSI file, the object file. However, the JavaScript itself will require you to input your own show GUI window line in order for you to display it, as it only displays the first window by default. Now over here is a pop-up window, which is something that you can customize on any of the labels. So let's say I wanted to create a pop-up window over here. So I inserted pop-up test. I clicked on this, and I created a pop-up window. I can create a pop-up window with several options. Let's say got option 1, and 2. And over here, you can space them out. You can create them as you want. So over here, if we go back into window 1, if we want this to link to that pop-up window, we will go down over here and click pop-up window 1. This will link it to the pop-up window that we have just created. If I save this, if I expand it first so we can see the full text, if I save it, save file, and then run, this will create a pop-up window with the exact layout that you created in the first place. One other thing that you can do is add images. So for example, if I put label over here, there is an image option. When you select an image, you can go down to, let's say, this folder icon, and that will insert the image into the label. Of course, by default, we have that text in front of it. So now we get rid of it. And now we can use this and place it wherever we want in our GUI. You can control some of the transparency. So over here, if I don't want that white background, I can key the colors, the RGB values. As you can see, the white has disappeared as that is now transparent. You can, with Windows, you can control the maximum dimensions. You can copy it, and you can paste. As you can see, now window 3 is a direct replication of window 1. So with general options, you can control the grid spacing, the padding between the various rows, the default width and height of each widget, the appearance of the theme. So by standard, it follows the current theme that you've set for Primer or the other programs. However, you can override it with these other themes. So for example, if I click dark, when you load the JavaScript, it will override the theme with dark. Let's get it back to the light theme. Here, it controls the output where you can write the JavaScript out as you wish, or you can just write out the JSI. So without this, it will only write out the JSI file, and you can then create your own other script if you wish, without having to worry about the template overwriting your own code and script. And finally, you can see that the GUI variable name, which is GUI by standard, and as I showed you before, that was what we referenced as the object. This can be changed, and that will be reflected in the JSI and the template file when you write it out. Now, to put this to use, to put some of these into a simple example, instead of just playing around with these various mock-up tools, I will show you how I've created a small script using the GUI Builder in order to change the part ID of a certain part. Now, firstly, I'm going to go into the GUI Builder, and I'm going to create from scratch one of these windows. So, for example, you can create a label of, say, part L for label, then part. Here I will create a text box, which I will align there. One thing you can do with this is you can hold Control to select both, right-click one of them, and hit Align to align whatever you've selected to the top of or anywhere else, left, right, top, and bottom, based off the last widget you right-clicked. Over here, I can insert a button, which I can then pick. Then what I can also do is I can copy this, I can paste wherever I want. Over here, I have, if I would like to align this with this, I can select those with Control by holding down Control and the mouse, or I can click and drag to encompass the two buttons that I would like to align. That will select both. I can align them to the top as before. When they're both selected, I can move them at the same time, and I will now rename and retitle them. So update. So what we want to do now is we have a few buttons that we want to use in our script. Firstly, I'm just going to name the functions that we would like to use. Over here, we have the onClick function. It will key in a callback function, which will be empty in the template.js. So over here, I want to put in a I will want to put in the name of the function, for example, pick part. Here, update ID. Here, quit. So what this will do is it will create empty functions. So if I save this into part picker, that will create a JSI and a template.js file. If I open them in a separate window, I will bring them in. So as you can see, in the template file, what has been done extra on top of what we've seen previously is we've seen use part picker. So that's using that file, that's referencing that file. We've seen that the GUI is being referenced, the GUI object. And now you can see that there are 3 functions that are empty. So what we want to do here is open, go back and think about what we want from these various buttons. So as a quick example, with pick, we want this to start a what is it? A picking routine to pick the part that you want. Just to quickly copy in some code. First off, we want to initialize a couple of variables. These will be used later on in some of these functions. And over here, we want to copy in some code. I will quickly explain what we're doing over here. If we want to pick one of the parts, in the JavaScript API, we have a part class and a pick function, which then we can use to launch a routine that will allow you to screen pick one of the parts. I've stored this will output a part object, which is then used to extract the part ID and place it in a variable. This will be used for a later dialog box message, which I will show you. Finally, over here, we want to update the text box as you saw earlier. So to quickly explain what this is, we're looking at the GUI object, which we will then reference the window 1 object within that GUI that was defined in the JSI. Then from there was the text box that we put in, T1, and that itself has a property called text. That will be updated when we put in the part ID variable value. Of course, all of this does not have the error handling and all the other bells and whistles that you would expect, as I wanted to keep this lean and parsable by a webinar audience. So over here, we've got the update ID That's it. Function. And over here, I'm going to copy in 2 more bits of code. As you can see, once again, I am using the part object and updating the part ID with whatever the user has put into that text box. So in the text box, when it is updated, the text property will be updated. And from there, I'm parsing it for an integer, which is then put into a part ID property of the part object. And over here, I've just put in a message saying that part ID, based off the old ID, has been updated to the new one. And with quit, this is a standard JavaScript message function, not message, quitting function, which exits the JavaScript. I'm going to hit Control S to save. And from here, I can try to run it. With part picker template, I will open it, just quickly close the GUI Builder and run. So over here, I've got my various buttons that I've used, as you can see, highlighted. So if I hit quit, it quits. So let me just run that again, hit pick. It launches a routine that's built into the JavaScript API, which tells me to pick a part from the screen. I'm going to pick this one, part 286. As you can see, that's updated with the part ID. And if I want to change it to, let's say, part 10, for example, I'll hit update ID. And if I hover, right, if I quit and then hover over it, you can see it's been updated to part 10. If I run that again, I hit pick, click this, it will tell me that the part ID has been updated to part 10. Again, I will quit. And that is a quick example of how you can use the GUI Builder to quickly create a small window in which you can interact with your JavaScripts. That is the end of the demonstration. I will now look at any questions that you might have after just a quick summary. So as we've seen in this webinar, we've gone over the purpose of the GUI Builder, why we created it, and how you can use it. I've shown you a breakdown of all the various widgets and windows that you can use. I have shown you a quick demonstration of how you can use them, as well from just a mockup, as well as a working example of the that small part picker window. And now I will be taking questions after just showing you where you can find out further information about all our events, tutorials, webinars. You can sign up for a newsletter to get all the latest information about the Oasys LS-DYNA environment. You can also follow us on LinkedIn and YouTube, where this will be updated. This video will be updated and uploaded to YouTube after the fact. And for any more information, for any questions that you feel that you can't think of at the moment, or feel like might be quite in-depth and might be out of scope for the webinar, you can send all your questions to our various Dyna support emails based off your region, or contact your local Oasys distributor. I'm just going to go quickly through the questions. So give me 1 second. Okay, we have one question. Can you use a background image for your window? At the moment, I believe that is something that we will, at the moment, I believe you can do that via the buttons, via the widgets. As for the windows themselves, I do not believe we have that functionality, although I can check. And if you can send that question to DYNA support, I can get back to you about that. That seems to be the only question at the moment. If anyone else has any other questions, please drop them in the chat. I'll wait for a couple of minutes, after which I think we will wrap up this webinar. Okay, it seems that there are no other questions. Thank you very much for joining us. It's been great having you all here. Hope this was valuable and informative. And please let us know how, if this was good for you, if you have any other questions, recommendations, or if you just want to express what you thought. Send us send us any emails to the DYNA support emails as you saw before. Let me just bring that up. And I think we'll just wrap it up here. Thank you very much.